So we are here, me and Mike are joined by the often discussed, seldom seen Dana McGrath, Dana P. McGrath. So we're going to start this is going to be probably considered mature content.
Yes.
Uh,
If there are children in the room, please have them leave.
yeah. So Dana, tell us about yourself.
I am 72 years old. I have 4 companies. I started my adult life living in a tree in a park. My wife and I started in a 10 by 50 buddy trailer, which we lease optioned from a guy who had lease optioned it 6 times before and still had it, because of course that was a trap. We fooled him, we paid it. I then went into banking and became a statewide VP here in Southwest Florida for a little place that is now Bank of America. It was Citizens and Southerns. I was very good at banking. I didn't like banking. And in 1987, knowing a depression was coming, I resigned and started real estate full time. My real estate license in 1979, in the middle of the Carter Depression. As a part-timer, I outsold about 3/4 of the full-times in my spare time. Started my real estate company in '88. My accounting firm in 90. I bought the accounting firm that was doing my books because they didn't understand them as well. Bought an office park. Oh, we bought a duplex in 1979, overpaid for it. It cost 48% of my net income, which is stupid, as everybody told me. We're still in it. In 1990, I bought the office park with a fella. I told he could not buy it. I would show it to him, but he couldn't buy it because it was mine. And he sat at the back of the lot and said, well, what if we did it together? I said, you can't buy it, so I won't show it to you if you're going to buy it. He said, okay. So he looked at it. And he said, why can't you buy it? I said, because I can't afford it yet. I can't pay for it all. He said, well, why don't we buy it together? And so we did. So if you look at the dates, 79, well, 71 was a trailer. 79 was a duplex. 90 was an office park. 93 was a motel. 97, we built a triplex. 2008, we bought a condo. If you will look at the economic picture in those times, you'll see what a banker that was trained by old, staid, black suit, wingtip bankers does about investment. So here I sit. I was on a roof this morning. It's all fixed. It's hot. I'm old. It's fixed. I did not call a roofer.
Which is awesome.
I have, however, replaced in the last year 3 roofs at the inflated cost that just grinds me down. However, no, actually, I'm sorry, 5 roofs.
Did you get up on the roof and replace those 5, or you had contractors do it?
I assure you, I was on the roof. I was not doing the work because the people there were shorter than I am and stronger than I am and working themselves half to death. I was very proud. I tipped them every day.
That's awesome. Well, that's a good way to set us up for the questions we're about to give you.
No, they
Yes.
were actually shorter than you. I'm having a hard time believing that.
Yes, I would guess the countries they came from, but that would not be politically correct. Again,
Ain't gonna
I'm
touch
very
that.
proud of them, and I tip them every day, and they could not believe that I tipped them $100 each every day.
That's awesome.
Well,
So next time you do a roof, let Jeff and I know. We're gonna
yeah,
we'll be up there for the tip. So
if you want them to do it right, be sure and overpay them. It's what I do.
gotcha.
No, it works with everybody. You know, that cutting corners, cutting coupons, you generally get what
Yeah.
you pay for.
When you're paying $35,000 for a $6,000 roof, $100 a day per person up there, it isn't gonna hurt you.
Fair. Well, so Dana, we sure appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy, but we have some questions for you that, you know, anything you want to bring up to us as well, we would happy to be here to hear that. But as you know, in our group, we've got, you know, some very seasoned, experienced investors who have done very well, and we get some brand new ones regularly. And if you got a first time investor or someone who wants to get into the real estate investing world, what is a couple of things you would tell them from the get-go they should do or be ready to do?
Pretty simple stuff. Now I'm the old banker. Own your vehicles, all of them. Have 6 months of actual living expenses in the bank for at least a year. Anybody can do it for 3 months. Never mortgage an investment property beyond 80% of cash break-even ratio. Never. It's going to cost money. Have that money. Present your projected ROI to someone who's owned investment properties for at least 10 years. Listen to their suggestions. And for today, my advice is go home, don't do it.
Don't do the investment.
Look at the years I purchased.
I
They
see.
were all recessions, and from my position, depressions.
Gotcha. Well, then that might be a good follow-up question, and that's real good advice. You're right. It's simple, but it's pretty point blank.
It isn't. This is not a difficult world. None of the worlds that you live in are difficult if you pay attention to the basics.
Okay. No, it's true.
The math, really just the math.
No emotion.
Just, here's my whole book on investment. There's the front page, which should have a picture of me since I'm a realtor when I was 27.
Yeah.
And then there's a title page that gives you the chapters. There's one chapter. Page 1 is a question. Are you in a boom or are you in a bust? Answer the question, guys.
I think we're in the middle right now.
There is no middle. You're still in a boom.
Yeah, we're still in a boom then.
Boom as of right now. Yeah.
Okay. What do you do in a boom? Buy or sell?
Yes.
Well, you know, I think it depends on where you're at. If you ever trying to acquire assets,
Well, these are easy questions, see, and you don't have the answer. So, what follows a boom?
a bust.
Okay. Let's try this. If you're in a bust and you saved your money, what do?
You buy everything that you can per the formula you just gave.
Now, if you're in a boom, what do?
Sell at the top of the
Same
market.
answer, just supplant buy with sell.
Yep.
If you want to make money,
Yep.
you sell when it's high, and then go to Tahiti or someplace. Actually, go to a 10 by 50 buddy trailer and just sit there.
The irony
the
of
bust is coming,
yeah.
and I'm about to show you that, and you already know it. But even you two, you're as good as it gets at it, and you don't have the basic answer.
Now, the funny part is that you don't sell anything ever, Dana.
Well, it depends on what you're, see, if I was technically bankrupt for 25 years, but
Yeah.
I refused to file, so I paid people $6 and $3 a month, and they didn't go after me for the medical expenses. So I'm very proud of them, and they were all paid, but I bought to keep, and if I couldn't buy it, I mortgaged our duplex, and we paid that off early. But we didn't see, we're seeing the Netflix movies now that we didn't see in the 80s. They're really good movies.
Well, you know what I would say too, that again, to buy and hold, and I get there's time to sell at the top and then hold off and buy again. But I like the thought of holding on to as much property that pays you, as long as it's paying you and financially you have the reserves to make the big repairs and expenses when the time comes. But still, if you're doing well financially, accumulate the cash so that you can buy again in the bust. But I've tried to hold on to most everything that I can. I look back on things I've sold, and I go, why did I sell that? It was paying me. Why sell your income?
Buyer's remorse comes with investing.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I happen to own 2 awards from some brokers who went bankrupt, who did an investment contest among brokers.
Mhm.
I won both years. So I do sell.
Yeah.
I bought and sold, bought and sold, bought and sold. And I did it with lots both times. And they said, well, that's cheating. They were buying houses, and trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
I was sending 3,000 letters and buying 6 lots and then selling them below market and holding the paper. And my ROI was E on a calculator, but when we closed, I didn't have any investment left. Half
Yeah.
down, half at 12%. They all sold. I didn't have that much in it. So in any case, yes, I do sell, but I sold we bought an industrial building in the mid Cape. 92, 93, one of the recessions, and I had waited 15 years for it. 95, something like that. So I waited 15 years, and I bought it when the guy was broke, and did my normal thing with it. And somebody offered us 10 years of income plus what we paid for it. We sold that.
Yeah.
I do sell, you just don't know it. But I started with the idea of doing all this to do what you're doing. Own enough that paid me, because even in a recession, it will pay you something.
Mhm.
The tax man will take most of it, as he is this year. But it will always pay you something. So,
Yeah, them tax bills just hit the mailboxes. The wailing and the gnashing of teeth is on social media is pretty wow right now. So
well, I appealed mine because it doubled in assessed value, the taxable value for the school district. And if they look at their notice, the school district's what's killing them. And it's that conservative we all voted for to replace that conservative Wilkinson before. And he denied my tax appeal, although he couldn't prove that anything sold for that much. So we'll be doing it again, but I may end up in court over it. He's wrong. So it's okay. He did the same thing to my triplex this year. No triplex is sold for how much mine is taxable.
Oh wow.
I evidently have the best triplex. It's better than the ones on water. So I didn't know that. I'm thinking of selling it.
That's to say, sell it for above the assessed value,
So basically it is, are you in a bust or are you in a boom? If you're a starting investor and you're going to buy in a boom, you're not going to live through the bust that follows a boom. Don't do it. Keep your credit good, save your money. You will be the best customer the bank ever had when you go in to buy that $500,000 place for $210,000 in the bust.
Makes sense. No, it makes sense.
then it makes sense to leverage it because it will return to $500,000. You will have, and with 80%, you'll have $160,000 mortgage on it. You're going to be fine. But if you buy it in a boom and a recession hits and you have vacancies, you all know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hold it, so you lose it, and there goes your credit. So, and you'll be out of the mood too, because by golly, that investing is stupid. No.
Won't be as exciting then, huh? Now I know that you've got some documents, some numbers, some figures you want to go over. Do you have that where you can pull up and discuss that?
Yeah. Let me get there. And this is just I need the share button again. Please, King Tumbo, please.
Yeah, no, it's everybody
I
can
beg of
share.
you.
Scroll down, just hold it down to where the whole bar comes up on the bottom.
I see it. Okay. Let's see. All right. You see all that, right?
We do.
That's just the Florida Gulf Coast MLS's quarterly, monthly report, which is infinitely more accurate than it was before Jeff and I started beating them like redheaded stepchildren over their stats. And I give them the credit for having improved a great deal. They never call. They ever call you, Jeff?
I sat on the stats committee.
Yeah, I
So-
remember you complaining about that. Me saying, "Shut up and go. They need you."
It was interesting. I'll leave it at that.
It was effective. You and I don't need it, but at least these numbers are reasonable. And I'll tell you how I read them. You have month over month, year over year in the middle column, and you have year to date in the right column. And somewhere around June, July, it starts making sense to compare them. You can compare new listings are up 4.3%. I don't know if everybody else knows this, but that's new. It was 1.5% for July. That's shrinking. July pending is up 11%. Year to date is down 13%. Closed sales off 27% versus 18, which only tells you that you're beginning to steepen your curve at the end of the period of year to date.
Days on the market. Okay.
All these people will definitely want to talk to me, but I'm not going to hear them because you guys are important.
That's right.
All right. So basically, I look at this and I compare year to date to month to date. And when the sales drop 27% month over month, year over year versus year to date, I know where the end of the arrow is going. Median price, I don't care what the price is. I never did. This is affordability. Do you see the two circles?
Yes.
That's typically just that the average homeowner can or cannot afford the average home. That's 2005 on the left. There's 2021 on the right. Do you see any correlation? Do you see a pattern change?
Yeah.
A drop. Yeah.
It tells you that cycles cycle and you need to prepare yourself because that's a fairly straight dive. And that dive actually started in 2004, but this does not reflect it. And you guys were probably drinking beer behind the Winn-Dixie or something. So 2004, actually 2003 was when I called the 2005 crash. And the 2005 crash actually happened in October of 2005. And Jeff, you now have those stats. I was an idiot for a while then, and then all those people would call me that when broke. I want you to look at the affordability after the market actually blew up. That was March of 08 and then September of 08. Stock market blew up. The world went crazy. Everybody was taking back the homes. When a $350,000 home starts selling for $85,000, it's affordable again, and you should then take your good credit and your reserves to the bank and say, I would like 7 of these, please.
Mhm.
We are not there, and it's not time to find out what the best cuts of your neighbor's dog is, but it's time to prepare, or perhaps your neighbor. But it is time to think about patterns that repeat, that tell you everything you need to know about what is likely to come, keeping in mind that 2005, October, the sales counts went down for the first time in a long, long time. And they continued to go down, dragging finally prices and foreclosures and all those things that you live through. There's the pattern of affordability, and it's difficult to stress enough the exact duplicate of 05 to 2021 and two.
I always laugh
Period.
too, because right now there's so many, everybody's gung ho to call it. They need to call the crash. So that's the foundation of, how they're going to fill the rooms and sell their products for the next 20
Yes.
years after they call the crash. And there's like one particular guy on YouTube whose data isn't terrible, but it's just pure hype. And
Yeah.
he, within 15 days, called the crash and validated the crash. And I'm like, a contract for real estate's generally 30 days. I'm like, bro, it just doesn't work like that. And
Yeah.
then you have particularly how these things unravel, and every cycle is different. It won't, when we correct it, won't unravel like the last one did exactly, because the human beings are doing slightly different things. But there's no possible way, like CNBC, we're in a housing recession, and they just say it. And where's the data come from, and how did we correct
The
that
builders
fast?
are in a housing recession. The builders are already in it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It can have an impact that is positive on the resale market. I think Mr. Powell is going to quash that, and should, because he should have done this in Trump's time, because inflation went to 3%, right? And
Yeah.
the goal was 2. That's the time to raise a quarter. But he didn't. So the Fed never does, and we've discussed that ad infinitum, ad nauseum over the years. So this is a closed sales. I didn't make these happen. In fact, I think I closed one last year, or yeah, something like that. So I'm not really a player, because I have hit that point where I aimed for 40 years ago, of having enough real estate to pay me, even in the slowest times, something.
Plus, it's hard to
Percentage-
sell houses when you're making it rain on your roof.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I did. I had the same roofs when I was selling houses. I just worked longer, and I was on the roof at night, which was a lot smarter, I want to know, than at noon today. So, a lot smarter. I thought about that while I was on the roof at 9, trying to breathe. So, this is percent of original list price received. You see the 2 little bumps here,
Mhm.
and then the crash. You see the 2 little bumps here, and then the crash. Do you see anything like that back here? No. So it's just, again, an old pattern that waits at least a generation for people not to know. And then there are people who know. Why would lumber fall after such a boom? builders are in a housing recession. They're smarter this time than they were in 2006, 7, and 8. And so when corn prices doubled, everybody planted corn. And then there was a big surplus of corn production, and wheat went up and corn fell in half. Well, corn's back to double, so everybody's planting corn. But Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, and they're farming different stuff this year, and we're having droughts and floods. So lumber, though.
Yeah, cluster bomblets are
Everybody-
bad for the combine blades.
Yes, yes. And if you remember, it wasn't but a year ago that they had the videos on the news of the miles and miles of logs stacked along the roads because the plants couldn't produce enough lumber out of the trees. I doubt those things are there now. So,
Well, but
lumber
they
has
also always overreact, and then at some point the market pulls back, and then you always have the excess. Like, I need to put windows in my home, and I'm waiting for everybody to completely panic, because what I find interesting, the intelligent way to adapt to this market is that the moment that you entered into everything for a permit, you ordered everything. So
Yes.
you've got builders that are sitting with 30,000 square foot warehouses full of impact windows. The trusses have already been ordered. And then if some of these don't go through, now what do you do with all these windows? Because that's why you couldn't get windows for a while.
you sell them for essentially half what you paid for.
Yeah.
According to this.
And Jeff buys for half of what they paid for.
Yes, and silver broke the Hunt brothers the same way in the 70s when silver skyrocketed. They filled a warehouse with silver, and it went from 45 to like 15. Wow. And the Hunt brothers, catch up with made them, and silver killed them. So
Yeah, but you know what? The Hunt brothers, they're this historical we put on the wall. I don't think they missed a meal ever.
no, they didn't. They didn't personally go broke, but their heirs were disappointed. Okay. National home sold above list price. You know what happened in mid 2021? Powell raised the Fed funds rate from 0.6 to 0.8 and drove everybody to get those cheap mortgages. So they bought whatever they could. It was the get in before you're priced out thing. And then that softened. And what caused this? That's the Fed funds rate raises recently. And that's a fairly sharp correction. It's short term.
There's also, especially, Fannie Freddie, that's still sitting on the Treasury's balance sheet, and the Federal Reserve will still
Yes.
buy all them. But like
Yeah.
liquidity for outside of that channel has dried up significantly in the last 6 months. Because I always say in real estate, you've got three basic types. There's lemmings, there's looters, and there's business people. And the looters draw their funds from the lemmings, and the lemmings are having a hard time drawing funds from anywhere. So the looters
Yes.
are having a hard time. The business people, we all do what we do, and but you're on the bigger side of the equation, not mom and pop buying houses through the, Fannie and Freddie and FHA, but the liquidity for the bigger entities. What's irony, the cap raises are so fine, like BlackRock and them, they can raise money on a whim. But if you actually want to go out and get it through a bank, the liquidity is significantly dried up right now.
Yes, and that happened in 2008 too. Bear Stearns was standing in the Federal Reserve Bank waiting to meet with Mr. Bernanke with my white paper that you have on March 14th. And they canceled my meeting because JP Morgan was taking over Bear Stearns and creating Meriden Lane 1, 2, and 3 on that day as I stood on the balcony of the Fed to give them my projection that all came true. It was the last communication I had with the Federal Reserve was There's nothing you can do about this, but you need to know it's coming. I used to talk to them, but they stopped talking to me for some reason.
They stopped responding.
I don't know what, because it was counter to what they were saying on March 14th of 08, as JP Morgan took the bankrupt Bear Stearns, for which you paid $27 billion. So in any case, this is the National Association of Home Builders, and they are in a recession, period. And they're in a recession, even though lumber is down. They just don't have sense enough to make $30,000 per copy and sell homes. So it's okay because it's all going to be corrected. This is available through your stats, and you just have to trim it to Lee County and single family sales. You see all these patterns. We are seasonal, and it repeats, and it shifts a little, but it repeats, and it moves all the time. This is 2022. Again, I watch patterns, and when they break patterns, I start looking for the pattern. You see this line? It hasn't been affected by a pattern since April. And we have the same pattern. We just don't have the same result. That line has to break in one direction or another. And I believe we're going to have an active season. I truly do. But this says we're not. We went through June's active season, falling all the way.
What's interesting, and I just talked about this at a luncheon, because so many confuse the cyclical signals and the seasonal signals. You know, they're so overwhelmed to call a cycle that they're just hoodwinked by just cyclical patterns. But
Yes.
What's interesting, I did the same thing, and then I've got a spreadsheet much like yours. I'm sure I've got every sale from 01 forward, and I average out by the months, and then I take the up and downs and figure out the ups and downs. You know, what should June look like from May every year? What should July look like from June every year? And we're actually not. It's weird because the numbers are all over. You have numbers going in different directions. There's no clear path right now. But when you look at last year actually kind of looked seasonal, and the ups and downs. It was just the most insane drinking out of a fire hose demand you've ever seen.
Yes.
So this year, it's funny because everybody's freaking out, and I'm like, it's definitely worth watching, and this could be the beginning of a correction, or this could just be the first summer in 2 years.
So, except for the straight line, and I've lived in this seasonal world for 40 some years, and have to remind everybody this month that August and September come every year, and you have all your money in March and April. If you just wouldn't buy a boat and a truck,
I feel kind of attacked right now.
Yeah, that's true.
But does it matter if you can buy 7 if you only buy 1?
Exactly. It's a percentage of your reserves that you're spending, but I want you to know that in the main, the average small businessman cannot live in a cycled year because he lives on a quarter by quarter basis, and if he made money, he buys that truck. And in your case, I would amend mine to, you shouldn't buy a new boat and a new truck in July because you made the money in March. It's every year.
Dana,
The difference is the straight line not affected by any of the variables that we seasonally see.
Dana, I do need to share
this straight line becomes a quarter of an inch long on a 20-year chart. So it may be nothing,
or maybe everything.
Yeah.
With everything else together, it isn't nothing. It is something.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain inventory patterns, January to July, January to July, January to July, January to what the hell is this? It didn't go down. It went up. That's inventory, folks.
Yeah, something's,
That's
I mean, I think October, November numbers will give us a much better indication of what that
Yes,
means.
October is always a good month because it's the worst month for the crashes in the stock market. It's the month during which some snowbirds come, depends on the weather up north. It's a decent month to recap, but I want you to know that in our cyclical world, if you own a lot of properties, September 30 is how much money you're going to make this year because the tax man's coming.
Yep.
And whatever you make in the next 3 months, he's going to take.
True.
So, and the
Yeah.
insurance guy.
Well, and insurance costs have gone up, but I do need to go back to that boat and truck comment you made. I
Yes.
will have you know that I know a guy who has had the same boat for the last 18 years.
I know him too.
And this guy has no intention on getting another boat. He loves his boat, and he paid $4,000 for it back in 18 years ago. And
I have had 3 boats, and I essentially gave them each away because I wasn't using them.
Yeah.
And one guy pulled out and said, "Okay, Mr. McGrath, I own the boat. What is wrong with this boat?" I said, "The only thing wrong with this boat is the address, and you're fixing it. Enjoy the boat."
This guy that I'm referring to, of course, myself, uses the boat probably weekly, but yeah, I don't plan on changing. Anyway,
Yes.
go ahead.
Well, there's nothing wrong with buying a used boat. There's nothing wrong with buying a used truck. We have 2 drivers and 5 vehicles. I bought an RV in February of 2020. In case you think I'm some kind of smart, what happened in February of 20?
It's COVID.
The whole world locked down. We
Yeah,
have not put
You look
any
like a
miles
genius,
on
though.
it.
Wait, the
It's
only thing
been
I've heard is the
sitting-
RVs and a lot of these vehicles, of course, we didn't know, they went up in value, which is like the unheard of. There was demand for them.
Some of them went
Yes.
up in smoke too.
Yes,
Yes,
true.
mine,
That's true too.
yes, mine when we were leaving for a trip and putting the food, I was going to get Peggy and the refrigerator food, and I left the thing running and had all our clothes and everything. We were going away for some time, and the water heater blew up and burned it to pieces.
Oh,
So we
that's
bought
right. Jeff
another
told
one.
me that. That's right. Oh man.
Yes, yes. And the insurance did exactly what, anybody that burns one of those for insurance, do not take their investment advice.
No. Well, but keep going.
Yes, yes. You're going to get a third of what you got in it, no matter what they do. So in any case, inventory is going up. And again, this becomes a 1/4-inch blip on a longer graph, but it is the change in the cycle from inventory bleeding off from January to July to suddenly, for no reason, I mean, plenty of reason, inventory is going up. That tells me that prices are going to come down. Period. Okay. Mortgage sales counts. Again, it's a pattern, but it's only 5 years of pattern that absolutely broke this year. Reversed themselves this year. That's the mortgage rate, which is disqualifying people who would otherwise overpay for a home. That's all that is. The bank is saying, no, you can't afford this. Well, they couldn't afford it last year either, and we'll figure that out as time goes on. Yep. So these are the things that I see. There's mortgage rates, and you can just put that around and you'll see the sales and all that sort of stuff. Cash sales are up, but they aren't up nearly enough to make up for the difference. And cash sales used to get a better deal.
Actually, the irony is the cash sales are still filling well. It's the finance buyers that have disappeared. I mean, you're down a little bit. I mean, the cash sales percentage is up, but the actual counts are down. But it's the mortgage buyers that are pulling out of the market. And the irony is, this the most 2022 thing ever, is cash is paying significantly more. Yes, but then again, if you're 68 years old and You want to live in Florida, you're going to live in Florida if you've got the money.
You're gonna sell your 700 square foot New York condo for $2 million. You're gonna come here and buy a $250,000 home for 500,000. Mr. Caldwell, the conservative socialist property appraiser, will then assess everyone at $500,000, and you will pay the county the basis that he says you'll pay them because a New Yorker bought the place for 500,000. That's how this works. It's cyclical. Elections change stuff. He's a Republican guru, and he's a socialist. So it's okay. Some Republicans are not conservatives. He's a very powerful man. I can't wait for him to come. So I, in fact, invite him to my office for a little confab on the market he's about to face and how scared he might get. So here is the sales counts thing that I've tried to make sense of for everyone else. I can glance at it, but 2022 will start there, is still above 2019 in January. It's behind 2021. Okay, fine. January 2020, we should have been in a beginning the recession cycle that I called in 08, and we were curving that thing. But COVID saved Florida. There's no question. I wouldn't wish for it again, but I'm feeling pretty good about monkeypox in New York. February again was lower than 2021, higher than, lower than 2021, higher than 2020. Like February, I had a new motorhome and no place to go. Still higher than 2019, same. All the little green ones are still decent news. In July, we fell below 2021, 2020. And remember, in July, we were having a great time. We had people with Brooklyn accents all over Southwest Florida because we were at the beach and they couldn't go in the hallway. So the problem is that in July, 1702 is below 2019. It's also below 2018 sales. August, on the 25th, we have 1138. The goal for a positive would be 2087. We're not going to get there. We're not going to get to 2129. I don't know that we'll get to 1760, but again,
I think we will. Actually,
Well,
I think we will.
Pending was good enough that it may well happen. I hope it does.
I think, but you'll have to pull those numbers about September the 12th or 13th to probably be at that. It's, as you know, somehow miraculously, the numbers just keep going from the 8th when, even after a good closing and a good 2-day bender, you should be able to go in and close it out in the MLS by then.
Yes, I know. And remember, there's a $25 fine for updates beyond like 24 hours or whatever it is. And I'm sure that the MLS is collecting those from everyone who does it because they warned me on several occasions when mine were 32 hours. So
yeah, if you look at it, if our baseline is 2019, we're going to smoke that this September. We're going to be at least 1,600. I'd be willing to 6-pack of beef ramen on that. You ready? Ready for the big bet?
6-pack. We're going now.
6-pack of beef. Here's the thing. The day night I bet you need a good a good wager. Now we're not talking chicken, not that terrible shrimp. We're talking
I'm thinking
beef.
Delivery. It's got to be delivery. And it's got to be beef. None of that chili crap. Okay, I hear you, Jeff, but back to the first slide here. Look at year-to-date closed sales. That's 7 months. We're down 18%. You think year-to-date we're going to break that between September and
Oh, we're
August?
not breaking year-to-date. I'm right now.
Oh,
watching
you're
the months
changing the
more.
bet. You're changing the bet. I don't blame you. Ramen's up twice from when we used to share it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's everything I want to bore anybody with, but it's basically what I look at and say, okay, for God's sake, pay attention. The signs are there. We're still having a fine year. It is not time to take in the stray cats for dinner. It's just that 05 wasn't that bad either, and 06 wasn't, but I tried to explain to people that 06 and 07, by 07, we sold half as many as we did in 05. But the price was still going up, and the price was going up because the builders were able to go through the MLS and sell buildings they didn't build, the pre-sales. Well, they were closing, and all the people who put down their deposits and walked away, those counted in the news, but the guy who had money and could be sued for specific performance had to close on that condo and that house and all that. It took 18 months to build. So 06 and 07 weren't driven by primarily resale buyers. They were driven by closing contracts on homes that were contracted in 05, 06. So, but they weren't closed until 06, 07.
I'm getting ready to do a really deep dive on the permits just to figure, as I mean, it definitely, I forget who said it to me, in 2007 is, we're having coffee and he goes, we've had a lot of these, Jeff. He goes, this is the first time that I've been here that we built 20,000 houses for the heck of. So,
Yep.
And that was probably the best analogy I've ever, and that really kind of had me really, when I started posting foreclosure numbers and we were doing all that's one of the things that launched me. So first thing I did was go, okay, is he right? Well, yeah, he's actually right. I found the permits, got them. And I'm about to do a deep dive on the permits just to see what our burn would be, because right now probably the softest place I see in the market is that for potential softness is the new construction. But then again, the builders don't care, and then you've got all these funds ready to buy. I mean, it's a different paradigm here, and I was just talking with different funds at a conference, and they're buying single families on a 4 cap and happy about it.
Yes. They're buying it with cash, though. They aren't borrowing the money to buy the stock.
Yeah.
They're buying it with the sale of the stock in their company. And if you look, it just showed you that the national home builders have said we're in a housing recession. The builders' stock hasn't gone down.
Now, something that was really interesting, I go over Lennar's 10Ks every time they come out because they're a smart company. Say what you want about, the realtors.
They're much smarter this time.
Yeah, the realtors don't like them because they only paid them 1% recently and all that. But they have actually carved out in their balance sheet for their own build to rent side of their own inventory, which is brilliant. I mean, you got a brand new house, you built it, it, put a tenant in it and have an investment. And even if it pays you 3% cash on cash, that's better than any bank's giving you on anything right now.
Not so. I can get 3% on a 2-year T-bill.
Yeah.
I can get 3.3% on a 2-year T-bill. I get 3% on a 30-year. Does that tell you what big money says? Big money says, I'll take the 2-year because I know that in 2 years I can buy the 30 at a much higher price. So you're seeing a 210 inversion that everybody said poo-poo, that's not a problem. And I said, ha 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 ha. Well, the spread is now 30-some basis points between the 2-year and the 30-year or 10-year. And that is a sign that the big idle money is going short. And the only reason you go short in a bond is because you want to be dropped into a higher rate time and not buy that 3% 30 and then have to discount it to get into 3%.
You also have in a deflationary panic, they will significantly overpay for that as well. I mean, it's almost, the irony is that bond is almost speculative. You're waiting for a deflationary spike in the economy to actually trade out of it and make a bunch of money.
Those bonds are for unneeded money. They are not the people's eating money. It's not even money that they think they may need. They put it in order for it to keep half pace with inflation. My parents put half their money in 30-year T-bills when it was 14, 15%. Laughed at me for all those years, and then they got dropped into a 1%. the, the gnashing of teeth was just embarrassing because they'd made 15% or 14% for 30 years. And then when they got to laugh at that and they got their principal, God, you'd have thought somebody stole from them. Oh, for God's sake.
Well, you know, I think we should do.
Actually, here's a question, Dana.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently financially, investing wise?
Nothing. Look at the dates I gave you. I would have bought more if I had more money. I didn't have more money. I wouldn't have leveraged more than I did. The mortgages just absolutely damn near broke me over and over and over again. And anytime your engine blows up, and I've blown up most of my cars. So when your engine blows up, of course you can go down to the dealer and back in looking at your shoes. And I've done that twice and I didn't enjoy it. So you can go down there and buy a new one, but I always put the engine back in it because, you know, then you own your vehicle again. So if you look at the timing of my purchases, you'll see that was the time to buy or within a year of the time to buy. This is no time to buy and a good time to sell what you own, or if you own it, it's going to cash flow something. So as long as you own it, you just got to get out of debt. The people, divorces from debt are, I think, the normal cause of marital problems. I have to tell people, you're arguing about money and you're arguing about a few $1,000s. You're arguing about money you don't have, and there's trillions and trillions of dollars that you don't have. You ought to at least use swords. You'd think you'd get automatic weapons involved in an argument over money you don't have. So you just got to get out of debt. People have just got to get off that debt slave thing. If you're 22, 25, 32, borrow all they'll give you. They're stupider than you. But don't kill yourself trying to pay it back. If you can't pay it back, give it back. At least you'll have a few years where they won't let you make that mistake again, but you're going to recover. If you're over 45, you're an idiot if you sign a mortgage. You're just an idiot. I'll give you an example. Trump's still doing it.
Yeah, he's a debt junkie, though.
Huh?
He's a debt junkie, though.
Oh, he's been a debt junkie all his life, and he lived well and all that sort of stuff, but he's dumb enough to take secret documents home with him and think they're his. They're not. They're mine. And they're not anybody else's. So just for the running person, and especially, I blame the man for everything that happens in America. I just want you to know that, unless I hear that his wife proposed to him, and then I blame her. But any man who lets his family be threatened by a lender for his entire life is not a man. Pay that stuff off. At least when you split it, each of you get something.
So and a lot, a lot of, I would say, even newer investors, some don't have the financial means to do so. But when I hear leverage up and get as many as you can, I'm thinking like, I don't like that idea. Would you rather have 5 paid off units or 15 with all have mortgages on it? I mean, what do you?
Yeah.
I want the 5 that are paid off.
Yeah, because I can at least sell one for a third of what it would have brought and feed my family. But I just I lived too close to the edge and under the edge and in a tree. So I don't know how much lower than in a tree you get. But
Well, the interesting thing is, people talk about, well, I sold for X and I can buy it for X. But when you were buying those $40,000 never lived in houses in Lehigh in 2008, you could
Yeah.
buy a pretty amazing car for $3,000 too.
yes,
So it's all
Yeah.
relative. So if you trade out at a certain point because you need to, the dollars that you're trading out in should float in the economy, not at the same rate. It's always slightly
Yeah.
inflated at the top. But yeah, so many everybody, the most important question in this game, and I always lay this on people, and you've heard this before, Dana, is what are you here to do? And so few of them can answer that question. They want to be rich.
Yes.
They want to. I'm like, well, what exactly are you like? You want $8 million worth of assets yielding 6% free and clear. That's a goal you can actually chop up, timeline out, and maybe get after. If you get a third of the way there, if you started with nothing, man, you're biggest success I know. So but
Yeah.
yeah, so many people with the investing thing and how they get caught up in these cycles is they don't clearly know what they're there to do. And particularly, like, Dana, what is your number to take $1 out of the bank, cash on cash? Say I
Say it
present
again.
you a deal. Okay, I bring you a motel. I say, Dana, I found this
Yeah.
great motel. I think you're the guy. At what annual cash on cash number
Oh,
do
this
you
is simple.
say I take my money out of the bank?
NorthFortMyers.com. Go down to the income thing. Run it through that. If it breaks even, cash break even is at 65%. Use 35% vacancy and real numbers in the expenses. If it's positive $1, if you can improve it at all, by all means buy it. But if it cash flows 35% vacant, an idiot won't lose that one. And it will never, as you guys know only too well, it will never hit your projection.
No.
Everything I ever bought that cash flowed at 35% ran closer to 7 to 10, and in some years broke even because of the tax man, the roof guy, and all that sort of stuff. So I use 35% vacancy against honest to God rents and real expenses. So when it comes up in the black for $1, I'm pretty darn interested. Until then, you need to keep owning that because the roof's going to be replaced. And on a commercial, that's some pretty heavy numbers. So that's my number to the point that I'm going to get out of my chair and go actually look at this. And I'm going to find something that the skin is all scuffed on. There may be some broken stuff, but if the bones are good, I can fix all that. When I did rehab, I made them look like Captiva homes on the inside and decent on the outside. Our motel is a roadside motel. You walk in the door and it's actually better than Hilton. I travel, I stay in Hilton's. our place is nicer inside than most of the Hilton rooms I've lived in. So dress it up big and yours will sell. Will it bring as big an ROI? I don't know. I don't sell, so I don't care what mine are worth. I care what they earn.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And by the way, if I were smart at all, I would have sold in 2019 because, as both of you probably know, I looked at 2019 as the peak, and it by God peaked. So I should have sold then, but it's a problem. If you buy what you like and you really like it, then selling it is, and you own it. Why do you sell it?
Actually, you selling everything with too much time on your hands, I feel would be worthy of following around.
Oh
with a
my God,
camera.
I'd have money too.
That's a
Pay the
reality
bill.
TV show I
My
would
God, me
watch.
with money. I'd buy 2 RVs and just park them next to each other. Take
Catch them on
pictures of 'em.
fire.
Yeah, yeah,
Set them both on
yeah.
fire.
Set them on fire and get a quarter back. No, that was my problem in 2008. I said to Peggy, "Look, we can sell this and sell it all, and we can retire." And she said what I said to her, evidently too long. She said, "Retire to what, Dana? What are you going to do? What am I going to do?" I said, "Well, I don't have that answer." Said, "Good, then we ought to go to work." And I said, "We're going to pour our retirement in. I'm telling you, this is going to be." She said, "I don't care." So we did.
Well, I was around and I remember it was kind of
Yeah.
comical, some of the repairs on particularly the motel, but the beauty is I don't think you've replaced the closet door since then.
Well, they have tried to destroy it. The ones that you get have honestly tried, but you go ahead, punch that wall. You'll be eccentric here.
Dana,
Actually-
describe to Mike how you made a closet door. This is
What did
the
you?
best Dana story ever.
Which
Solid
closet door are you
steel.
talking about?
The closet doors in the motel where you built the grids and then you basically
This is
Yes.
good. I want to hear this.
They aren't Luan. They're plywood on a grid we built. And so when you punch that Luan door, you're going eccentric here. Punch the wall, we have cement mixed in the plaster. So we find skin on the wall, you know.
Yeah. So of course
Oh,
Dana
yeah.
has plaster and cement combo.
Plaster and cement. Mix a little cement in your plaster, and what you get is knuckle skin on the wall. One, just one. Even a drunk guy will go, "Jesus!" That does not impress your girlfriend of the evening.
The broken wrist.
It'll be an early checkout.
That's good.
So, you build beyond your lifestyle, your lifespan, and hope somebody else enjoys it during half of theirs. So we build hard.
Smart. That's smart.
And I've done it everywhere I've done it, and I've put too much money in it. I don't care, because it still pays me something. And in boom times, it may sound like I'm hoping for a recession. God, I would continue this for the rest of my life. But Brandon is simply not going to have that happen. And Mr. Powell has absolutely no choice but to do what he's going to do, I hope. And that's going to be good for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, because we may get into that 2009 affordability thing again. That would be wonderful for the people who kept their credit in good repair and built some reserves.
Yeah, I remember we brokered a deal in 2009 and they still have the same house and the same mortgage. They bought at the time, they're way overpaid. I didn't know if it was going to appraise. $51,000, 3.2, 1,600 square feet in Lehigh. And I was like,
Yeah.
there's no way it's going to appraise. I got all these REO sales around it for 10 grand less. But, shockingly enough, it always appraises right for the contract price. And, but they still
Again,
have
I
that
overpaid.
Go ahead.
I overpaid for all of mine in a recession, but it wasn't overpaid in a normal market, not in the middle market. It was just that at that moment, another one similar would have cost less, but I didn't want the other one similar. I wanted the one I wanted, and it's been my experience that when I want it, I will offer you more than list, and we will close, and you can laugh. And the guy that sold us the office park 20 years later sat in front of me and said, "Dana, I have made a lot of good decisions in real estate. The absolute worst decision I ever made was selling this office park to you. So that's what overpaying, and I knew people that knew him, and he was just ecstatic and laughing at me for paying so much for his office park. And he went broke. he bought a nicer one. Had it for months. So it's just great. But he's dead now. So
You got anything else, Mike? You got anything else, Dana?
No, Dana, we sure appreciate your insight on it. We probably should regroup, I think, in the October-November timeframe once these numbers come in and give
Yes.
us. And but your experience and time was fantastic, and the kids could have stayed in the room to watch this. It wasn't as as over.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to be a lot worse.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna hear some more. Maybe you can for October plan accordingly, and we'll look forward to that.
Well, I'll look forward to it. And do you remember the last thing I said when I visited a REIA meeting?
I don't recall, but I want to hear it again.
Okay.
Maybe.
I believe it was 2015 when I last actually spoke. And I said, in the middle of all this palaver of 2015, I said, look, this is pretty simple. If you'll just go find something you like, or 15 somethings you like, offer them more than they're asking, and don't sell it, you're going to be wealthy.
Yeah.
Now go back and do that. And all these people, and some people have flipped. Kevin Dong just amazes me. He pretty much had it, and now he's just doing it perfectly because he builds a Captiva style home in a rehab, and they sell, and he's keeping the money, and he's doing it right. Others are too. The vast majority of them are flipping up a hill that they will fall off the cliff at some point. If you buy one for 200,000 and you put 30 in it and you sell it for 295,000, you didn't make 35,000 because you did it in less than a year. You had closing costs on the buy, you had closing costs on the sell, and you've got personal income tax on the short-term gain. But that doesn't keep them from buying another one that is $35,000 more.
Yeah.
And now you actually lost money and you don't even know. But flipping up a hill it's fine. But man, when that thing turns down, ugly starts.
Well, that's the at that point you start to get we're long-term holders now. So, and that's another box to check too. Well, we're going to buy and hold this one. Okay. Yeah. You didn't get the price you wanted.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are doing it with the hard money loans, and it just the same old thing and all that sort of stuff. But if you own it, you can make a lot of mistakes and still own it, which is why I had to own it, because I learned all of this by blowing it bad. So.
I had a conversation with a newer investor recently, newer within a couple of years of doing it. And hey, we flipped this one, we made 30, and we flipped this one and we made 35,000. And I said, what do you own though? What do you have that you are collecting on each month that pays you? So when you are sleeping, you're making money. And well, we don't own anything, but we're going to get into that. I said, we'll stop flipping and start owning. And you want to build wealth, own and be paid all the time. Even when things are bad, you still have an income coming off that. It's not an expense to you.
Yep.
And what do you want?
But I would only add a little pause there where you take all that money that you made. And first of all, I want to see it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. And then I'd like you to put it in a 1-year CD and see if it breaks. It's already breaking. I don't know if it continues to break or not. We'll see. But if it breaks, if you made all this money, you ought to have a lot of money in the bank.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
If you made all this money and you don't have a lot of money in the bank, you're a fool. And you shouldn't have a family at all. they should leave you right away. Um, if you're 35 and you're flipping and you made all this money and you paid tax on it and you don't have any,
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would stay around them.
There's a huge difference. A lot of investors get in, they want to do the quick flip, make 20 grand, and that their life's changed. But if they only knew what it would be like to own 10 properties outright and they all pay you every month, and again, it'll fluctuate. The market will go up and down. But at the end of the day, if you own nothing, no bank has any control over you, and you're collecting that income for years to come, pretty good life.
And by the way, let me add this.
Yeah.
I have an IRA. It's $20,000, I think. The rest of the money that I do have in reserve, the taxes are already paid on.
Yeah.
So my retirement, if it isn't immediately followed by an obit, will be with no taxes whatsoever. Because it took me a while to figure out that the IRA was a trap to begin with. And that if you put it in a CD, an IRA CD pays less than a regular CD. Why is that? I mean, why is that?
Yeah.
That's because it's an IRA and it's tax deferred. It's not tax free. So as soon as you start pulling it, and a Roth IRA is even cooler because you get to pay the tax now, and then you only pay it on the interest when you pull it back out. Any of the gain you pay. So it's an accounting nightmare, but that money has depreciated every minute of every day it was in the IRA at a lower rate than if you took post-tax money and put it in a CD. So when I say put the money in the bank, I mean put the money in the bank.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's how, just one last thing of how to measure success or your path to it. If you end this year with $1,000 in the bank, and you end next year with $3,000 in the bank, and you work the standard year of 2,020 hours, you made $1 an hour. I don't care how much you were paid, you were brokering money for people who got it from you. The only income you have is the difference between what you had last year and what you have this year, and all the effort and the struggle and the stress of your year left you in this position. So I started that in my 20s saying, okay, I have $500 on 12/31. I have $1,500. Gee whiz, I made 50 cents an hour. The rest of it went to someone else. And those people were smarter than me. Those people are now dead. Therefore, I'm smarter than them now. But
Until
it's early. Yeah. I was on a roof, so.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to October, November, and all that sort of stuff, because they will tell us more about that straight line. I hope it turns. I just don't know what turns it.
Gotcha. Well, again, Dan, we really appreciate your time. It was a great time, and we'll reach out and do another one here in a couple months and reevaluate everything.
Cool.
Very good.
Enjoyed it.
And by the way, we're sitting here with a boomer, a Gen X, and a Gen Y. Aren't you a Gen Y?
I don't even know what I am.
I consider Mike to be a boomer.
Yes. Intellectually a boomer. We're all boomers intellectually.
I think he's got knee-high white socks on right now, probably.
Yeah. But it just proves that every generation has people with enough sense to at least discuss things without screaming and.
Well, the irony is technology-wise is why I say that he's completely useless.
Yeah.
So when it comes to if I don't do it with the REIA from a technology perspective, it's not going to happen.
Nope.
Let me give you a parallel. Uncle Sally can't run a computer either.
I think he can. I've done these with him. He can get on it.
Yeah. Well, Mike can get on it. I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm about to say, but setting it up.
I think that, you know what? We need to do one with Uncle Sally and Dana.
Oh, that would be good.
That would
We've
be
had some
fun.
great conversations in this office over the years, and it's just been a blast him being him, me being me, and he was here when he went to retire, and I said to him what my wife said to me, because I said to her, retire to what?
What are you gonna do? Yeah.
What are you gonna do? I'm gonna travel, and he came back.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah.
And it's boring. Everybody's at work. I said, yeah, so welcome back. And he's done just fine.
So,
He's a
all
piece of
right,
work.
enjoyed it,
Like our
guys.
both of you.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate it.
See ya.
See you guys.